This is Capitalize Your Finances, the show representing you, a select group of excited, ready, and fired up listeners seeking to potentially maximize your money moves and get after it. We don't settle for generic advice of always and nevers. Our currency is our intellect, and we constantly seek the logical way of likely creating advantages to potentially maximize wealth for your personal and unique situations. This show brings you the step-by-step framework to capitalize your finances in all aspects of your financial situation, and we strive to explore strategies and ideas to potentially help you capitalize on your financial decisions. We are capitalizers, and this is our show. Welcome back to Capitalize Your Finances. As always, I am your host, Chris Ray Paniotu, the Cap in Capitalize. And today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Over the course of 2022, we have been getting fans emailing in with questions on questions on questions about all sorts of topics that we cover on Capitalize Your Finances. So it's about dang time the Cap and Capitalize gets into it and answers a few retirement questions on today's episode. What I'm going to do is go through some of the most interesting questions that we have gotten as of late, and want to be clear that these questions are all important and are in no particular order. This is the first time I'm seeing these, so I will be answering these questions in real time. So in order to keep confidentiality, I will not be reading the names and or emails of capitalizers that have contacted us with these questions, because I'm that type of guy. So enough of the lead up. Let's roll up our sleeves and get on into it. So the first question, subject line: what do I do with an inherited IRA? Hi, Cap. I'm a 27-year-old female, and I tried researching, but it seems every situation is different. That sounds about right. My grandpa just passed away, and I had an IRA set up specifically to go to his 5 grandchildren. My cousin passed away 2 weeks ago after my grandpa, so that adds an additional mess. Technically, my cousin's money should then be dispersed between the 4 living children, but I think my aunt is trying to take it. My mom managed to get our account separated for her 3 children, but doesn't seem to know what else to do. Anyways, I have about $25,000 in this inherited IRA. They told me I need to do something with it because it's too small for me to keep it there. It also has to be dispersed within 10 years, which I don't really understand. I make about $100,000 a year, and I don't need any additional money currently. My 401k naturally is doing absolutely awful. I don't mean to laugh. It caught me by surprise. My family is very frugal, but never really learned anything about finances other than I should save my money. Well, that's valuable. I have $50,000 sitting in savings. Good for you. I really have no idea what I'm doing, and everything I read seems to take me in circles. I'm hoping I can really learn a lot going through this and for future financial benefits. What should I do with my inherited IRA of $25,000? Also, am I on the right track with things, as I am beyond nervous that I'm messing up capitalizing my finances? Any help you can give me would be incredible. Wow. Okay. Well, first off, thank you for tuning in. And right off the bat, without knowing a tremendous amount about your situation, I would say that you're doing friggin' fantastic. $50,000 in savings is no joke. And this tells me that more likely than not, you are a phenomenal saver. And that also tells me that you've built in some incredible financial habits. You have a lot to hold your head up high about. And I can't say that about all the capitalizers that tune in. Now, regarding the savings, if you went back to capitalize your savings, whatever your monthly expenses are, make sure you keep them floating in your checking. Once that's done, 3 to 6 months will be appropriate in your actual savings. Now, without knowing everything about your situation, I'm going to assume, which again, that's never good, but I'm going to assume nonetheless, that you are not spending as much as you have saved up. So once you have set that aside, whatever's left over, I would either look into opening an IRA or a Roth IRA and contributing the maximum amount of $6,000 for the current year. Now, if you make too much, you wouldn't be able to contribute to a Roth IRA, but that's neither here nor there. In regards to your main question regarding the inherited IRA, yes, the rule now is that you have until December 31st from 10 years of death of your grandpa to distribute the money. You can do so however you choose. However, if I were you, I'd probably distribute the money accordingly over the 10 years to balance out the tax consequences. Because you make $100,000 a year, on top of the fact that you've saved up 50 grand in savings, I would agree that it's clear you don't need the money coming from your grandpa's inherited IRA. So if we assume that, let me get my calculator here, over 10 years of earning approximately 6% on your 25 grand, that's coming out proportionately, you're going to have about $3,400 a year to do something with. Now, what to do with it gets a little bit more interesting, and I would need a ton more information. But neither here nor there. I'm going to do my best to lay out the possible wise money moves that you can choose from. So again, I don't know if you're married. I don't know if you have kids, but if you are married and if you have kiddos, opening a 529 plan for college could be optimal if higher education is of importance to your family. It's not after tax, but the money grows tax deferred, and then come school time, which is college or trade school, and actually even private school as of the last couple of years, that growth is tax-free if used for school purposes. So that's one option. Another option is what I stated before. You could open up a Roth IRA or an IRA to contribute for retirement. Because you make $100,000, however, it may not be super beneficial from a tax side of things to contribute to an IRA, since you wouldn't get a deduction based on your income if you were already contributing to a retirement plan at your company you work for. You could simply open an investment account and start investing that money. But the final option I will give you to chew on is to look into starting a permanent insurance strategy, such as a whole life, universal life, variable life insurance. And the reason is it's kind of abstract, but just bear with me. Because what's interesting is that because you have your grandpa's inherited IRA essentially forcing you to spend about $3,400, you could kill several birds with one stone by utilizing some sort of permanent insurance that will provide some sort of death benefit to your loved ones if you passed away unexpectedly. And if you make it to retirement, you could be rewarded by using the cash value in that policy to help fund some of your retirement years. Now, after year 10, if I safely assume that you'll be making more money then than you are today, which again, I have no doubt, since you are so much more on top of things than you said you are, which is incredible. It's awesome. Your grandpa's inherited IRA, it's going to be gone, but you'll be able to fund that policy with your own money at that point. Again, this would really make sense if you had a significant other and or kids you wanted to provide for, but even if you didn't and are eventually wanting to have a family, it wouldn't be a bad option to look into. Now, as far as how to invest that money within your grandpa's inherited IRA, there are floating opinions out there as to how one should invest accordingly, but I would say within the stock market, find a mutual fund, an ETF, an exchange traded fund for short, or a stock or stocks you prefer. The main thing I would be aware of is that because you have to liquidate this account by year 10, I wouldn't risk your money by locking it up in an illiquid investment. So stick to liquid investments, and barring you don't invest in a package of total duds of funds or companies. Next batter up. Let's see here. Hi, Cap. I have a summer job and I really don't have much for expenses. Parentheses. Yeah, I'm lucky to have a generous daddy. Okay. All right. If I don't have immediate needs for money, should I invest it? Right now, it's just in a bank savings account. How do I do that? Should I start a 401k? How? Okay, it's a lot shorter than the first question. So, piggybacking off of the first question, you have to make sure you capitalize on your savings. However, given the fact that I am assuming that you are pretty young, it sounds that you have more than enough cash. If you know that you have ample cash and do not need anything above your emergency fund, the short answer is, well, yeah, I would totally invest that money for sure. So I'm going to come back to the how do I do that question and answer first off, should you start a 401k? So unless you run your own company or you're an executive or a person of that clout, you can't open a 401k plan as that type of retirement plan is uh, opened for companies. Now, if you're an employee, you don't have that power to choose 401k or no 401k. You do, however, have the power to decide if you want to open an IRA, an individual retirement account, and or a Roth IRA. If, big if, your dad does not offer a retirement plan to you or employees, open up a Roth IRA. As I'm going to make the strong assumption here that the summer job isn't exactly lucrative, which would mean you, as far as what you make, okay, it would probably make sense to open up a Roth IRA. Now you're going to thank me with that after tax money growing tax free. And down the road, when you retire, not paying taxes on those monies, it's going to be friggin' sweet. And again, if your dad does have a retirement plan set up and you're able to contribute to it as an employee, I would still open that Roth IRA account, but I would also immediately start contributing to that 401k retirement account or retirement plan of whatever style he chose or his people chose to open. And the reason for that is, in general, your money is going to go further in a company retirement plan versus an individual retirement account or just general investment accounts. And that's simply due to the companies matching your contributions, as well as the overall costs are lower, leading your dollars to be stretched further. Obviously, you can't control the matching. Some companies do, some don't. It's neither here nor there, but it's mainly from a cost side of things. Okay. Okay. So the last question as to how is it's going to be a bit more open ended. Okay. As stated earlier, you could decide to do some research on a mutual fund company, an exchange traded fund, an ETF, or you could also look up individual companies that are publicly traded. Now, you could also look into the alternative investment world. However, it'd be nice getting your feet wet in understanding the stock market before you dive into more advanced options. Also, as stated earlier, it is kind of nice building up some liquidity, even though this money will be invested for the future. And more likely than not, you're not going to need to touch this principal for a while. Now, before I close this one out and go into the next question, one thing you got to think of from the retirement plan side, because a lot of people ask me, oh my gosh, is the 401k or nonprofit 403b or sometimes 457 plan, is that better or worse than an individual account? And I've spoken about this on previous episodes, but it's worth reiterating. So think about when you buy in bulk for groceries. If you need to buy things in bulk, you're generally going to go to Costco or Sam's Club, depending where you live in the country. And the reason for that's pretty obvious. You can buy, again, in bulk, but also your dollar is going to be stretched a lot further there because you're paying wholesale pricing. You're not paying retail pricing. Versus if you go to, a local market, around here we have Safeway, Fred Meyer, Albertsons, you name it, okay? Whole Foods. Those are going to be retail prices. And so you won't really, again, in theory, buy in bulk there because people know intuitively you may just need to swing up to the store to pick up one or two items you maybe forgot, or maybe you need to buy them for that special dinner or event, whatever. the point that I'm making here is when you think about your 401k or your 403b or your 457, or I could really say any retirement plan for a company, that is the equivalent of your Costco or your Sam's Club to retirement. Generally speaking, you're getting the pricing of these same investments, generally speaking in the stock or bond market, at wholesale pricing versus if you do your own custom investment fund, whether it's an individual retirement account, a Roth IRA, or just a general investment account, that is going to be more expensive, all things being equal. Now, a lot of slick and sly advisors out there are going to tell you, hey, put your money up to the match in your 401k or 403b or 457, and anything above and beyond that, open up an investment account with us because we're going to be able to do better. At the end of the day, they could do better. But as far as prudency, you want to make sure you max out your retirement plan first before you do an individual type of account. Okay. So that's going to be crystal clear. I cannot stress that enough. Okay. Question number 3. Hi, Cap. I love what you do and have been following you ever since I listened to your episode, Capitalize Your Investments, as I've always been fascinated with the investment world. This may be more elementary of a question, but nonetheless, here I go. I want to pause really quick, okay? I do not care if it is an elementary question to me. If it's an important question to you, that's all that matters. So again, I'm going to keep reading. In October 2020, I borrowed about $20,000 from my 401k to make a down payment on a house. Okay. I have 7 more payments for about $3,500 remaining. So I'm assuming that's $3,500 total because that'd be a ton. Payments are via paycheck deduction. It is at a 4.25% interest rate. All right. I'm considering pulling from my liquid savings to pay this off early and then replenishing the savings. Is that a bad idea? Is it net neutral? Now, this person put an asterisk and explained, I'm not trying to start a discussion for whether this was a good idea. It was certainly a risk, but one that seems to have worked for us personally because we would have been unable to afford our current home had we waited. Regardless, what is done, and whether 401k loans are a good idea or not is beyond the scope of this question. Okay, all right. So for starters, I'm not going to get into the asterisk part of your message, as you're totally right. It's completely irrelevant. What's done is done. So that's a great start. This one is actually going to be a pretty straightforward answer. And speaking of straightforward answer, before we get into that answer, it is about that time to give a straightforward shout out to today's sponsor of our episode. Capitalizers, this episode is sponsored by the best-selling book, Capitalize Your Finances, the how-to financial framework that takes you from compoundingly clueless to monetarily magnificent. Regardless of where you are at in your financial life, whether you're just beginning to express interest and commitment to your personal finances, you're at the pinnacle of your career, you're winding down into retirement, or you're thinking about your legacy for future generations, this book walks you through every step of the way so you can succeed on your terms and with your own values and passions guiding you. After reading this book, you will officially have me, Christopher A. Paniotu, the Cap and Capitalize, in your back pocket, guiding you in detail through every step of the way so that you can take charge of your finances, not the other way around. Head on over to Amazon.com today and start capitalizing your finances to the fullest with this incredible book, Capitalize Your Finances, the how-to financial framework that takes you from compoundingly clueless to monetarily magnificent. And now, back to the episode.
Christopher Paniotu is a registered representative with and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor and member FINRA SIPC. The investment professionals are affiliated with LPL Financial and are conducting business using the name Capitalize Your Finances, a separate entity from LPL Financial.
Now that we are back, since you remember listening to Capitalize Your Investments and Onward, which again, I want to say, I love the fact that I get these emails and these calls and notifications from listeners. It absolutely makes my day. I cannot express to you how much I appreciate and love your guys' support. But okay, enough of my rambling. So since you remember listening to Capitalize Your Investments and kept going, you got to ask yourself what you think you will be able to earn going forward if you invest that money. Again, obviously, this is not going to be guaranteed. It is not set in stone, but we can try to ballpark what we think would be a prudent prediction of a return. So if you look at a long-term investment or long-term investment options, you'd be eyeballing a goal of net of tax 6 to 8% on the high end. And again, I'm being very conservative in my projections. That number is greater than your 4.25% interest rate on your loan, right? So where I'm going with this is if you have excess money above and beyond your emergency fund, I would not pay off that loan faster. If I were you, I would take that excess money above what you've stored away for emergency fund. And again, kind of being broken record on this episode, but it's a valuable broken record nonetheless. I would look into a Roth IRA if you make under the limits of $129,000 if you're single, or $204,000 if married filed jointly. But if you make too much, you can contribute to an IRA, but you're not going to get a deduction if you make too much while contributing to your company's 401k. But you do get the tax deferral, so that's kind of a nice little perk. The only other point I would like to add is that if you are making more than you're spending, capitalize your gap money and increase your company's retirement plan contribution immediately. Regarding if you contribute before, after tax and retirement plan comes down to your tax situation, but I should add, because it's really valuable, that even though people can make too much to contribute to a Roth IRA, this does not equate to contributing to a Roth 401k. So again, I can make the argument that if you're making too much for a Roth IRA, you probably want to contribute to a 401k before you pay taxes on it anyways, due to being in a higher tax bracket than normal. But again, different strokes for different folks. Now, before I get into the fourth and final question, there is kind of a caveat to that. If cash flow is really tight and you know that you've got the extra cash, and you know that if you do pay off that retirement loan, that will single-handedly free up cash flow for you. And there's some emotional stability there, as well as you can build that cash back up. That would be the only exception, but all things being equal, it comes down to the interest rate. And unless you are dire for cash flow issues, if you have that flexibility, everything I said before stands. But I just wanted to be crystal clear on that, because there is no one size fits all. Okay. And everyone knows that, that's been listening in for the last couple of years we've been doing this show. But even some of the most wise forget, even myself. And so it bears repeating that. So anyway, let's get into the fourth and final question for the day. And by the way, I'm absolutely loving this style of episode. And as a side note, let me know if you want more of these types of episode in the future. And you know the drill. You can shoot me an email, chris@capitalizeyourfinances.com, because I'm having a blast. This is freaking sweet. So let's get into the last one. What's happening, Cap? What is happening? Love the content and love what you stand for. This isn't my question, but when are you going to start a speaking tour across the country? Because I'd love for you to come to Dallas. Oh my gosh. All right. We've got ourselves a fan, boy or girl, keeping it anonymous. My book needs signing. All right. My book needs signing, and Texans want what the Cap and Capitalize is cooking. Oh my gosh. I am on cloud 9. Well, okay. Before we dive into the question, the Cap and Capitalize will not reveal too much of what he's got cooking, but there will be in the near-ish term future a possible tour that could be heading your guys' way. So That's all I'm going to say. And I better get a true Texan greeting, and I better eat some true Texas barbecue. That's really all I ask. Okay. Okay. But let's get back into it. So, okay, here's my question. I've been going back and forth on what I want the goal of my Roth to be. Either buy dividend paying companies or straight growth. This person has 2 investments. I don't want to get into the specific investments. Also, due to compliance, I'm not going to go there. But this person currently has 2 types of, I believe, mutual funds. Not that it matters. I have a pension. I have a 403B plan. I have an Acorns account, very small, nothing crazy. Okay, you got a lot going for you. I was thinking about adding, another investment to my Roth to generate income from dividends for retirement so I don't have to time the market and sell shares of the other 2 investments this person mentioned previously. What are your thoughts? Okay. So this is actually kind of a combo of retirement and investing question or questions. I don't think that was proper English, but you all know what I'm trying to say here. So I'm going to lean on the retirement side, and I'm going to sprinkle in the investing answers toward the end. So what I would first say is, I'm just going to start this off bat. I can tell you're super smart, but you're getting a little ahead of yourself. And what I mean by that is I think it's awesome. I actually think it's freaking fantastic that you're thinking about different types of investments within each type of account you have. However, make sure you're nailing the systematic process of properly funding accounts in order before you go bonkers on the investment side of things. As a side note, that took a lot of brain cells for me to get that sentence out. So I apologize here. So you told me you have a 403B plan. You told me you have a pension. You told me you have an Acorn account and a Roth IRA. Well, you didn't say Roth IRA, but I'm going to assume on that last one, since you described it differently than your 403B. So my first question is going to be, are you maxing out your 403B as an employee? Which, again, isn't it crazy how all of these questions kind of, they all kind of mend and mold together. I think these 4 capitalizers got together and said, let's just email Chris all at the same time and just give him a run for his money. But anyway, so remember, you can put in up to $20,500 this year if you are under 50. If you're 50 and over, you can put in up to $27,000. So if we're going to keep things simple, which is what I'm all about, and before you look to max out any other accounts you have, you got to make sure you max out that 403B plan. Now, I'm probably going to get some kickback for what I'm about to say, but I'm going to go through with it anyways, because, at this point, why stop? Think of the stock market like you're going to Baskin Robbins or any other local ice cream store that you have, okay? So let's just say that you like chocolate ice cream. I like vanilla. My teammate Betty likes strawberry ice cream. Where am I going with this? Okay. We're all eating different flavored ice creams with slightly different calorie breakdowns, slightly different ingredients, but we're all eating ice cream nonetheless. And we're going to be leaving that building, that local ice cream store or Baskin Robbins, equally fat and equally happy. Could you, back to the investment side, be an investment wizard and get more custom in your individual investments and strike it big and become the next, I don't know, Peter Lynch of investing? Sure. But the odds of that happening, again, I don't want to discredit any hopes and dreams here, but there is a reason there's only one Peter Lynch. So focus on that 403B. Okay. Now, to answer how to invest, you mentioned the dilemma between the 2 funds. And again, just to repeat myself, due to compliance, I'm not going to speak in state specific strategies. But what I can tell you is the difference between a dividend income strategy versus purely growth in the investment world, it's kind of sucking you into the weeds of unnecessary thought. So think about this for a second. You have two investments, okay? One pays you an income of 6%, and the other doesn't, but it grows at 6%. So I've always kept it simple by saying that the 6% is 6%. So as long as the investment you are looking into is prudent, I don't really care how you get that same 6% or whatever number it is that you choose. One thing I would agree with is that eventually, once your portfolio grows to be large enough, utilizing different investment sectors like real estate, private equity, business development companies, interval funds, and hedge funds will be a much more valuable discussion in terms of how to throw them into the mix, as opposed to the question of, should I buy a dividend company or a company that only focuses on growth? Because when you really think about it, there's no such thing as a growth company or a value company. And that never made any sense to me. So when you get a chance, go ask anyone you know that runs a business if their business is more of a growth business or a value business. I'm just going to spoil the ending. They're going to look at you like you are absolutely insane. I mean, shoot, I can even run, or excuse, I can even answer that running my own business. Of course, I want my business to grow. And of course, I want it to provide me in my employees value. I mean, who says that you can have one or the other? That's just my take. Okay. Keeping it simple. So, but hopefully that answers your question. And I'm getting the cue from my team to zip it, lock it, and put it in my pocket, because that is all the time I have for today's episode. And I hope you enjoyed this little mixing up of style, as I personally loved it. I love answering your questions. We have a ton of questions that we unfortunately can't get to today, but I promise there will definitely be a next time. As always, if you have any questions about today's episode or questions in general, you know the drill. Send me an email, chris@capitalizeyourfinances.com, or give me a call at 253-214-3050, and I would be more than happy to see how I can answer anything that comes to your mind. I am signing off for now, and until next time, as always, keep capitalizing.
The information provided should not be considered specific tax, legal, or investment advice and is not specific to any individual's personal circumstances. To the extent that this material contains tax matters, it is not intended or written to be used and cannot be used by a taxpayer for the purpose of avoiding penalties that may be imposed by law. Each taxpayer should seek independent advice from a tax professional based on his or her individual circumstances. Different types of investments and/or investment strategies involve varying levels of risk, and there can be no assurance that any specific investment or investment strategy will be profitable for a client's or prospective client's portfolio. Thus, investments may result in a loss of principal. Accordingly, no client or prospective client should assume that the information presented serves as the receipt of or substitute for personalized advice from Capitalize Your Finances or from any other investment professional. You should always seek counsel of the appropriate advisor prior to making any investment decision. All investments are subject to risk, including the loss of principal. This material is gathered from sources believed to be reliable. However, its accuracy cannot be guaranteed. Examples cited are hypothetical, are for illustrative purposes only, are not guaranteed, and subject to potential federal and state law amendments. There is no guarantee that you will achieve the results discussed or illustrated. IRA withdrawals will be taxed at ordinary income rates. Withdrawals prior to age 59.5 may also be subject to a 10% penalty tax. Roth IRA distributions of principal from a Roth IRA are tax-free. However, any earnings will be taxed at ordinary income rates, and a 10% penalty tax will apply if withdrawn prior to age 59.5 or within 5 years of the date the Roth IRA was established, whichever is longer. Distributions of principal from a Roth 401k are tax-free. However, any earnings will be taxed at ordinary income rates, and a 10% penalty tax will apply if withdrawn prior to age 59.5 or within 5 years of the date the Roth 401k was established, whichever is longer. Your investment options are limited with a Roth 401k to those offered by the plan administrator. Charges and fees may be incurred. Earnings from a 529 college savings plan can grow tax-deferred and may be withdrawn free of federal taxes when used for qualified education expenses. Non-qualified withdrawals are subject to a 10% penalty tax. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell or a solicitation of an offer to buy securities. Investment products described herein may not be offered for sale in any state or jurisdiction in which such an offer, solicitation, or sale would be unlawful or prohibited by the specific offering documentation. ETFs are subject to market fluctuation and the risks of their underlying investments. ETFs are subject to management fees and other expenses. Unlike mutual funds, ETF shares are bought and sold at market price, which may be higher or lower than their NAV, and are not individually redeemed from the fund. Investments in non-traded business development companies, BDCs, are subject to significant risks. These risks include, but are not limited to, limited operating histories, reliance on the advisors, conflicts of interest, payment of substantial fees to the advisors and their affiliates, and illiquidity. If you are able to redeem shares, they will generally be redeemed for less than the original amount invested. Investing in these products may not be suitable for all investors. This material should not be considered a solicitation of an offer to sell or buy any specific security or offering. Investors should consult a financial professional to determine whether risks associated with an investment in the shares are compatible with their investment objectives. Before investing, carefully consider a mutual fund, a BDC, or an exchange-traded fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus, which contains this and other information, call your financial advisor. Read the prospectus carefully before investing. It is important to keep in mind that investments in fixed income products are subject to liquidity or market risk, interest rate risk. Bonds ordinarily decline in price when interest rates rise and rise in price when interest rates fall, financial or credit risk, inflation or purchasing power risk, and special tax liabilities. Interest may be subject to the alternative minimum tax. Treasury securities are backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government but are subject to inflation risk. Insurance services offered through LPL Financial or its licensed affiliates. California Insurance License Number 0518721. Christopher Paniotu is a registered representative with, and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor and member FINRA SIPC. The investment professionals are affiliated with LPL Financial and are conducting business using the name Capitalize Your Finances, a separate entity from LPL Financial.